Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back, Maverick family, to the Maverick News Channel. The trade war escalates. Trump's tariff tantrums continue. He's hoping for a deal with China, but says he's not going to meet with Canadian officials. He says he's just going to let it ride. But over here on the Canadian side, some people are starting to call his bluff, and some people who know him very, very well are also calling him out for, well, misrepresenting history. We've got all that and a lot more to unpack tonight, right here. Stay with me. We'll dig into today's top news stories on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
So this was Trump overnight on Air Force One in a gaggle with reporters when asked about what's going on with Canada.
You know that if I weren't elected president, in my opinion, every automobile company in the United States would be either bankrupt or very close to it. And instead, they're hitting record highs. Their stock is through the roof. You saw Ford and you saw General Motors yesterday go up big. It's all because of tariffs. If it weren't tariffs, it'd be just like it's been for the last 30 years, where we lost about 52% of our automobile manufacturing business. In my opinion, whether it be now or very shortly, if it weren't for what I've done as president, every automobile company in America would be bankrupt. Instead, they're doing phenomenal business. That's all because of tariffs. All right.
Well, not quite. Not record highs. If you go back, I'm going to come back to this in a moment, but you can't let these half-truths and outright lies just go unchecked anymore. If you go back to 2021, Ford, in fact, was doing much better in the stock market than they are right now. Stock prices in recent months have increased, but what was it? I think Ford was up back in 2021. They were much, much higher on the stock market than they are now. What was the pricing in 2021? I'm just checking for you here. So GM stock price as of today, I believe, is like $69, $69.38. And that is its all-time high, matching it almost an all-time high. But Ford, not near there at all. Where are they at now? I should have had this stuff better prepared for you. Bottom line is this: the Ford stock prices were actually much higher back in 2021. The industry is more stable. And I did have these numbers lined up for you, but then I've kind of lost my notes. And I want to be accurate if I can be. So Ford is at 1326, and their one-year high was 1397. And it has risen like 28%. It was down to $10.29 a year ago. I'll come back to this stuff later in the broadcast, but the point being, if you go back to 2021, the entire industry was benefiting from the USMCA, which was the deal that Trump negotiated with Canada. And that provided stability. And under those conditions, the auto companies were enjoying more stability, growth. They were rebounding from the pandemic. And the stock prices were increasing substantially. And that was because of the USMCA, which created essentially free trade between especially Canada and the US, as autos and parts produced in both countries are flowing back and forth across the border with pretty much tariff free, which is, I thought, what Trump wanted. But no, that isn't really what he wants. This isn't about really he wants the auto industry. He just wants all of our car plants from Canada to relocate to the US right now. And that's what he's after. But that isn't about making the auto companies more efficient. And if you go back when Trump was first elected, this is a fact. The auto industry executives in North America went to see Trump, and they were opposed to his tariff plan and told him that this was costing them big money, increasing the costs of producing automobiles in both Canada and the United States, and they wanted him to dial it back. As a result, he did actually put a pause on the implementation of the tariffs at that time to give them more time to sort of adjust, but they're still facing increasing pressures. And don't forget that increasing prices result in inflation, which can also result actually in higher stock prices too. Everything's going up, but it doesn't mean you're getting more value for your money. It's leaving you overall poorer. And it's making North America the most expensive place in the world to produce automobiles. So that means that the United States is going to be pulling inward and will be less competitive and unable to export automobiles to other parts of the world. Not that the U.S. exports that much to other parts of the world other than Canada now. Let's go back to Trump's gaggle.
On the flight yesterday, you sent out your Truth Social about the Canada tariffs. Can you walk through when you expect those to take effect? And can I ask why?
No, we're gonna let them know. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. He used them sparingly, which he probably would make a mistake. He made a mistake in that. And again,
he's lying. He's outright lying. He knows he got caught in a lie. That's why he's added the line. He used them sparingly, but now he's saying that Reagan made a mistake in using them sparingly. But he says he loved tariffs. He did not love tariffs. It's just a straight up lie. He's either ignorant, doesn't know history, which is probably true, but he's also lying, especially now because he's been called out. And everybody knows he's lying. The people who are supporting him and suggesting otherwise are also either ignorant and historically illiterate, or they're lying just because they're on Team Trump. Now, tonight, I'm seeing even his old friend, Mike Pence, is calling out the Gipper. Let me find his clip here. I have so many things open. Where'd you go there, Mike? Too much stuff. I'll just bring it back up over here. So Mike Pence, former VP, vice president, Trump's vice president, pretty steady hand. I remember when Trump was first elected, I was watching some of the first media exchanges that Trump was engaging in. And he was sort of putting his foot in his mouth all the time, getting himself into trouble with the media. And it was Mike Pence who kept rescuing Donald Trump. Trump was saying stupid things. Pence would come in, and I kept thinking, yeah, Trump is the cleanup man. Every time Trump steps in it, he's going to be there to provide the correct words and keep things on track. Here's Mike Pence on Twitter saying, Reagan versus Trump on tariffs. The Gipper was a free trader, no matter what the current president says. And he's linking to a Wall Street Journal article, an opinion piece, an op-ed, Reagan versus Trump on tariffs, which we don't need to get into. But the point is, the more I look at what has gone on, and hindsight is conveniently 2020, Pence was a good guy for Trump to have. He was a solid choice, but in the end, he ended up calling him a wimp. We just saw those notes released by Pence, made public over the weekend about his final January 6th phone call with Trump. Trump called him, insulted him, called him a wimp. In fact, he had to put up with Trump's crap for 4 years. And then in the end, Trump turned his back on him. It was, I think, more that way than the other way around, because Pence, I think, was trying to do the right thing, said he followed his heart. Now, Pence is a man of morals. If you really put the two side by side, I feel for Mike Pence, because he did have to put up with Trump's crap. Pence has always been a stand-up guy. If you're a real Christian, Pence would be your guy, not the beauty pageant, Epstein, scandal embroiled Donald Trump guy. Trump has just made it okay. He's given license to people to be jerks, to be nasty to each other online, to be unapologetic when you're being an a-hole. Pence, solid. Always a steady hand at the wheel. He was the straight man to Trump's buffoon. But there's really very little that's funny about what's going on right now. And Trump's being called out by a lot of people and being found out. And that's why over on the Canadian side, there are no apologies tonight. Here's more of the gaggle.
I was the biggest fan of Ronald Reagan, but on finance, on trade, it wasn't his strong suit. But he liked tariffs, and they totally changed that to say that he didn't, because they're catering to the Supreme Court, because Canada's been ripping us off for a long time, and they're not going to rip us off anymore. Canada...
Not true, and I'm going to show you that that's not true in a moment.
...has been ripping us off for a long time. Why? One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught. The Ronald Reagan Foundation was the one that caught them, and it was totally the opposite of what they said. So I don't like that. That's dirty pool.
And that's a lie. That's not true. The quotes were, it's just, they played Reagan's statement, very famous address that he made on tariffs. not taken out of context, really does reflect the exact views that Ronald Reagan had on tariffs. We've played the full clip here for you. It's all over the internet now, and it's doing a lot of damage to Trump, actually. So Canada has drawn blood here, and that's why Trump's pissed off. He's not mad because Canada got it wrong. He's mad because Canada got it right.
You can't do that. And let me just tell you, they shouldn't have done it. And they've apologized, and they said, we're going to take the ad down. Well,
No, we did not apologize. I don't think there has been an apology at all. Yeah, we took it down in the interests of diplomacy, but Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the guy behind the ad, has not apologized, just the opposite. And there has not even been an apology from Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, who is charged with the task of being diplomatic and just, being calm in the face of the storm that Trump is bringing to the negotiating table, except now he's just taking everything and going home. He doesn't want to talk anymore.
They did it, but they did it very late. They let it play for another 2 nights, and now they took that ad down. So I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it. Let's go.
Mr. President, can I just add, this is an ad, that was an ad run by...
He doesn't really want to discuss it because he got called out. It's too embarrassing for him.
Provincial government in Canada. Why are you mad at the federal government?
Because whether it's provincial or Canada itself, they all knew exactly what the ad was.
And Trump is more alone than anybody realizes. He looks like he has all the support. He's just being a bully, and he has everybody around him living in fear. Look at Marco Rubio right behind him. One of the smartest guys Trump has on his team. He used to, in the debates when they were running for the nomination, for the Republican nomination, he was up against Rubio, and he called him Little Marco, belittling him, right? And look at him now. Like he's got, a very prominent position within the administration, and Rubio has his own set of issues, to be sure, but there he is. He just keeps his mouth shut, does as he's told, sucks up to Trump. He's afraid. He's the smart guy, but he's playing the long game. He's being smart, but you can tell he's like everybody around Trump. They're all afraid. Everybody's afraid of him. But Canada's calling his bluff. And it's time a bunch of people did. A lot of people are saying, you ain't so tough.
Prime Minister knew. Everybody knew. The Prime Minister knew what the ad was before it went.
Will you see him?
Elbows up. All these separatists, pro-American Canadian influencers, pseudo-Canadian influencers saying, oh, where are the elbows? The elbows down. The stupid no, you know what? This is exactly what this is. This is elbows up, baby.
APEC, do you want to meet with them?
I don't want to meet with them. No, I'm not going to be meeting with them for a while. No, I'm very happy with the deal we have right now with Canada. We're going to let it ride.
Well, we have...
Okay. Well, it's a bad situation. Nobody really ever wins in a tariff war. But I'll tell you this, Canada is not weak. Canada is very strong. Canada has a lot of cards to play. We're not as big as the United States, but we are an important trade partner. Doug Ford knows it. And like I said, he is not apologizing. Quite the contrary. Here's Doug Ford today defending what he did, defending his decision to run the ad.
And I wanted to get the message out there. We achieved our goal, and now we paused it. We didn't have to spend the $75 million I thought we would, a fraction of that, and I'll get the numbers for you shortly. But what we did, we ended up with earned media of anywhere from 300 to 400 million people and impressions. We call them views for the people at home. But I was getting constituents calling me saying their relatives in India saw it, in Italy, Portugal, Scotland. My niece in UK said it was running all over, and every outlet in the US. So we achieved our goal, and now we put it on pause.
Have you talked to the Prime Minister about this, and what's? I mean, he was pretty measured in Malaysia today.
Sure.
About you and about this situation. But how are relations with the Prime Minister? Are things strained now because of what's happened?
Not at all. He saw the ad before I put it out, so did his chief of staff. They both saw it, and we moved forward on it. But again, we achieved our goal. As we say, mission accomplished. It was done. They're talking about it in the U.S., and they weren't talking about it before I put the ad on. So I'm glad that Ronald Reagan was a free trader.
The Prime Minister was explicit today in saying that it was the ad that derailed negotiations which were moving ahead. With that in mind, why don't you feel you owe Ontarians an apology?
For sticking up for Ontarians, well, let's talk about a so-called imminent deal. I've been hearing this for month after month after month, and if there was no mention about auto. It's about steel. The Americans are gouging us on steel, 50% tariff. We're at 25%, but nothing to do with auto. I am focused on, and I love the steel workers. I talk to Ron Bedard, CEO, every second day at Dofasco, supporting him, Algoma, up in Sault Ste. Marie, protecting jobs. But I'm here, my job is to protect jobs here in Ontario. There's no mention whatsoever of auto. I feel like it slipped to the side. I'm going to fight for the auto workers, the steel workers, the manufacturing and life science sector, all these sectors that President Trump wants to annihilate, not just our country, but in particular, he wants to take jobs from Ontario. That's what he's trying to do, and I'll keep fighting, and I'll never apologize for fighting for the hardworking people.
Why did you decide to run the ads during the World Series, and do you think that made things even worse?
Not at all. I think that's a good impact. Again, we had over 1 billion impressions. We achieved our goal, and our goal is to make sure that we get a fair deal. Not a one-sided Donald Trump deal, but a fair deal for the people of Ontario and Canada. And I'm focused on auto. There's no mention of auto anywhere. We've seen what's happening. I'm fighting for the people down in Windsor, up in Brampton, over in Oshawa, up in Cambridge. Any area that has auto, it's my job to protect those people's employment. And that's what I'm doing.
Did you talk to the Prime Minister about your approach of leaving the ad on for the World Series and then pulling it today? Was he supportive of that, if so?
No, I'm not going to get into personal conversations that we had. He knew I was running it. I said it very clearly to everyone. I'm going to pause it on Monday, which we have. We have achieved our goal, and now let's get back to the table and sit down and have that conversation on how we're going to protect auto jobs here in Ontario.
How do you get back to that? In the House that this was taking months and months.
Yes.
Are you frustrated with how long it's taking, and do you feel cut out from the heart of the negotiation?
No, we play a critical role here in Canada. Ontario's the manufacturing powerhouse in the country, and when Ontario does well, so do all the other provinces and territories. I did have an opportunity to speak to almost every single premier. I think I have a couple in the territories I still have to reach out to, but my comments to them is, do you want to keep going? Guys, that my champion Wab Canoe. He's 100% behind it. Another champion, Premier Eby as well. So these are the premiers, total different political stripes than I am, but we're all sticking together. And I went right.
That's right. I mean, I don't need to let all of this roll, but the point is, yeah, he's making the right. It made a point. It drew blood with truth. He just used Reagan's words, and Donald Trump claimed it was AI. He made it up. It's all fake. I think it might have been AI. No. Here, watch this version of the ad. This will tell you something, too. We're going to come back to the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, and what he's doing. Here, watch this one. Look at this. International in scope it is.
You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group.
Yeah, except that ad, was that version of the ad, that video, that was running in China, I believe back in April, and Trump didn't do anything about that. Didn't do a thing. Because he only picks on weaker or opponents that he perceives to be weaker than himself or of the United States. So he, just park, I don't know, like 20 ships off the coast of Venezuela with the world's largest aircraft carrier and F-35s and just use them to blow up fishing boats. Go after Canada and the auto industry in Canada, because what does he really want? He wants to take the auto industry from Canada. He's the one stealing the jobs. He's the one who's ripping off, not Canada. Here, I've got this chart to show you. Auto exports. You think Canada doesn't have any clout? No cards to play? Yes, we do. It's a numbers game, and Trump is not looking at it entirely correctly. Now, see, I've mentioned this in the past. Canada is much stronger than anybody realizes. Not because, see, we're not as big as the United States, but we are a major trading partner with the U.S. We export about $58 billion worth of automobiles every year. The United States exports about $140 billion, number 6 on this list of countries by vehicle exports. This is a chart showing 2024 from Klaus Kellerman. The thing is, the United States is not, it's not like one of the top auto producing companies. They export 144 million, but they are not cost competitive. They are an expensive place to do business in, especially in the auto industry. And based on their size, the size of their market, they are not one of the, they're not a competitive country. As a result, they import $391 billion every year worth of automobiles. That's why they have a huge trade deficit. A lot of the vehicles that go in there come from Canada, but not all. I mean, they import 391 billion. The majority of vehicles manufactured in Canada, of the 58 billion that we export every year, majority goes to the United States because we're so close in proximity, and because our industries have the industry has always been integrated between the two countries from its very inception. And with the negotiation of NAFTA and then USMCA, it became basically a tariff-free and more efficient industry. But Canada is also a great importer of automobiles, 90 billion. We import almost double the number of automobiles than we produce. And of that, the majority of them come from the United States. Some come from other countries like Japan, Korea, Vietnam, China, Mexico. We import, though, $90 billion worth of automobiles. So we also have a trade deficit. The thing is, because the majority of the vehicles that we purchase from the United States, if we stop buying cars from the U.S. and only buy cars, if we as country were to just start buying cars from Mexico, China, Japan, Europe, say look, we can buy Germany, China, Mexico, and Japan. The top 5 countries alone dwarf what the United States does in terms of exports. And we can just, if you pulled out all of the Canadian money that we spend on US cars and trucks every year, it would devastate the US auto industry. It would just gut it. Leaving only, it would be the market they have would then end up being smaller than the entire Canadian auto industry if you removed what we buy here in Canada alone. And it would be very easy for us to do that. Just stop buying US automobiles. And if we started buying more from other countries like Korea, South Korea, if we did more business with them, if we did more business with Mexico, then we could open up maybe the taps and start exporting more to those countries as well, especially over to Europe. So they're very vulnerable. The United States is not the economic powerhouse that Donald Trump wants you to believe. The reason he's behaving the way he's behaving is the opposite. They appear to be very affluent. It's like when your neighbor has 2 new cars and a brand new house and a swimming pool in the backyard, and they seem to be living a life of affluence. But the reality is, when I see somebody driving down the road in a high dollar sports car or a $150,000 SUV or a Lamborghini, you know what I see? I see debt. That's what they have, and that's what's going on with the United States. They just have never paid off their bills in decades, so they owe now $38 trillion. They appear to be extremely affluent, the richest country in the world. They're the biggest debtor country in the world because they've been living beyond their means. China is on the rise. They own a lot of U.S. assets, they carry a lot of U.S. debt, actually. So they own, in essence, a lot of the United States now. The tables have turned. They owe a lot to the U.S. because it was Nixon, really, and a lot of the decisions he made back in the 70s that helped lift China up and get them into a position where they could grow and become an economic powerhouse, the one that they are today. But Trump, he's trying to take things. That's why he's down in Venezuela right now. He wants the oil. He wants Venezuela's oil. And they're using drugs as a pretext for some sort of an invasion. So they can move in there, and if not take over the entire country, by ousting Maduro, they'll take the oil. But of course, that wouldn't play well with the public. So the justification has to be drugs, because who can defend the drug trade or drug dealers? That's a story, we'll continue to elaborate on. But make no mistake that that's what he's after. The oil there, he's after Canada's oil. As I said the other night, he's also after Canada's other resources: uranium, nickel, lumber, water, gold. Canada has huge gold reserves in Ontario and Quebec. We have mineral reserves. He'd love to get his hands on all that. But of course, the crown jewel, the main objective is to take the oil, because there's so much oil out in Western Canada. He's after that. 51st state, separatism. That's why they're throwing, a bunch of money at the separatists to help fund them out there in Alberta, because they're trying to disrupt and actually destroy Canada. They're after the auto industry because there's revenue to be had, especially tax revenue, by moving the productive capacity over to the United States side. And they've made it very clear, it doesn't really matter what Canada does. They're determined to take the auto industry from Canada. He wants to steal the jobs. Gut the plants, take the jobs, move them to the U.S., So you can, it's not a, I think the strategy is working. We're seeing that we have drawn blood. When I say we, I mean Canadians in this skirmish, which is part of the broader trade war. And this is an example of elbows up. And Trump is embarrassed by it all. David Eby, Premier of Alberta, or sorry, British Columbia, saying that his ads, he's planning on running similar ads to the ones that Ontario ran. His ads are going to go ahead too. He doesn't care. Well, I think he cares, but he's not going to sit there and apologize. Nobody's apologizing to Trump. Trump even said, oh, they apologize. No, not this time, pal. Nobody apologized for this. David Eby says British Columbia's anti-tariff ads aimed at Americans will go ahead. And Mark Carney, speaking with the media today at the ASEAN Summit, put on the hot seat by reporters, and he's playing the good cop. This is the good cop, bad cop scenario. The premiers get to take an aggressive stance, and it's up to Carney to be the good guy because he has to sit across the table from Trump. So he chooses his words very carefully, and here he is at the ASEAN Summit being very diplomatic. But listen, there's no apology here.
Symmetric, those arrangements, and that's how we tend to do trade, but the U.S. does it differently. It's not how we tend to do trade. That is how we do trade, and the exception is the way the U.S. is doing trade.
Next question, Ian.
Ian Austin from the New York Times. When you made several concessions to the United States, dropping the retaliatory tariffs, the digital tax, and so on, you were challenged, and you said there's a time to push back and there's a time to talk. Well, the talks ended.
Well, they just ended. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we back into retaliation? Does this open the door to things like removing the EV tariff?
Look, I wouldn't speculate on that. I'd say the following. I mean, you can speculate. I'm not going to speculate on that. I'd say the following. The approach that the previous government put in place in terms of retaliation and that we kept on for a period of time, the reality is that Canada was one of only 2 countries that had retaliatory tariffs on. So everybody had focus, but only 2 countries had those in place. And the value of those retaliations was diminishing. Remember that tariffs, we put retaliatory tariffs on, there is a cost at home for those tariffs. They were designed to minimize those costs, but there's still a cost at home, and those costs build up over time. So we took the decision, we stand by it in terms of taking those down, taking those off, and then we made the progress that we did.
And remember, I've been saying that too, that what people don't realize is, yes, some tariffs are put in place as counter tariffs, but a lot of them have been removed because they are a tax on the company that is importing the goods. And ultimately, if Canada places tariffs on U.S. goods, that filters down into higher prices for Canadian consumers. So Carney knows that. A lot of these tariffs were symbolic, signaling, an elbows up stance to the public, window dressing. But a lot of them have been removed because he knows, as we said in the as I illustrated in that clip that we ran the other night from Milton Friedman, there's no sense in continuing to shoot holes in the bottom of your own boat.
We will, it goes to the earlier question, I think it was Judy's question about contingency plans, and right. And we have a series of measures that we have put in place for the strategic sector, so-called strategic sectors for steel, for aluminum, both in terms of liquidity support, in terms of more strategic support, so that billions of dollars of strategic support so they can pivot to new markets, new products, by Canadian policies that are just now getting fully articulated and ramping up, so that we can support there. And there will be more coming in the budget as part of a broader industrial and trade diversification strategy, climate competitiveness strategies, which will help for all of this. So that's the focus of the reaction. I mean, obviously, we will protect markets if we see big asymmetries in terms of access, but it's not a decision for today.
Follow up.
And the end of these talks, which you've described as being serious and constructive for what seems like a capricious reason, does this underscore that? Is there any value in trying to negotiate something with the Trump administration? Is its word worth anything?
Look, I think that yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. There is value. There's tremendous value in those negotiations. We've seen the U.S. administration has made a series of commitments and agreements that is stood by. Some of those have been in the peace and security area. Some of them have been on the trade side. But just to be absolutely clear, we represent Canada. We are going to fight for Canadians. We are only going to agree to a deal through a negotiation that is in the best interests of Canadians. They are working in the best interests of Americans. There are places where those interests are aligned and they overlap, and we can have a deal. But we're not going to accept something that is not in the best interests of Canadians, and they understand that.
Next question, Mackenzie.
Okay, Mackenzie, you can ask your en anglais.
Mackenzie Gray with Global News. I'd like to follow up on Sarah's earlier question. I know you said you haven't spoken to the president, but you've been known to text with him. Have you reached out to him personally at all?
The president knows that I'm available to speak to the president, as I always would be, as you would expect. As president of the United States, so of course make myself available and make myself available for other world leaders as they wish to. We will both be in APEC. Canada's a member of APEC. I mean, we're going to be there, very much so.
Follow up.
So you haven't reached out to the president at all?
The president and I have not spoken since he took this decision.
And you want to chat with him at APEC?
We are ready to have discussions when the Americans wish to have those discussions, but we're not. Obviously, we don't dictate the timing of that.
And last question, dernière question, Steve Chase.
Steve Chase, Globe and Mail. I wanted to ask you about where the relationship with China could go. And your predecessor fenced off significant portions of the Canadian economy from Chinese investment, critical minerals, anything related to national security, academic collaboration, the list goes on and on. So my question for you is, are you willing to revisit or consider lowering some of those restrictions so that more Chinese investment could flow into Canada?
Well, it's.
I got to say this. Here's the irony in it, and maybe a little grain of truth too. I've said a long time ago that Trump, as much as he rattles his saber in the direction of China, a lot of his policies are actually very pro-China because his policies drive traditional U.S. allies into the open arms of China. And this is where we stand today. We're really at a crossroads. Do we do more with the United States or more with China? Now, Europe is there, and we can do more with Europe, but really to replace what we have with the United States or to forge a new path on a similar kind of scale, China is where you have to look. And Donald Trump is driving us toward China. That in itself, I think, is politically a trap, one that Donald Trump has potentially laid for us, but isn't there? Therein lies the irony. Carney, a little too smart to, I think, take the bait, and probably anybody that would be in the prime minister's chair, I would hope, would be too smart to take the bait. but we'll see where it goes.
The start of a broader discussion. There were greater restrictions that were in place given other issues in the relationship. First point. Secondly, there needs to be a resetting of expectations, or we're in the process of a resetting of expectations of where the relationship can go, the extent to which we have different systems, where the relationship can go and where it won't go. And that's part of the discussion that has begun. I think what is absolutely clear is that a relationship, for example, where there are extreme restrictions on travel between our two countries is an unusual place for the Canadian-China relationship to be, given the history of the relationship, given the long history of travel between our two countries. That is one example. It's a very obvious example that progress can be made. There are issues, as people well know, in agriculture, for fishery goods. There's issues in manufacturing and others, and we will explore what we can build on. Relationships rebuild over time when they have been when they have changed for the worse, and so we have a lot of areas on which we can build. And look, last point, which is that this is our second largest trading partner. This is the second largest economy in the world. This is one of the most influential actors in terms of the global system, such as it is, and it is a country with whom we had no senior level contact for 7 years until I met Premier Lee in New York. So we're starting from a base, and we can move quite substantially. We're starting from a very low base, and we can move quite substantially before we start to get to sensitive areas.
Would you like to, or is a free trade agreement with China out of the question? And if you could, would you drop EV tariffs against?
I look forward to the discussions with President Xi, and they're about much broader set of issues than trade, and we'll be in better position to start answering questions like that as the relationship evolves and deepens. So we don't go in. There's no preset offer issue. This is the difference between relationship and transaction. We're starting relationship, building up the relationship on that.
Thank you. This puts an end to our press conference.
Interesting choice of words. He says that's the difference between relationship and transaction. And of course, everything with Trump, transactional. I'll be right back.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I think this is the clip we're looking for from British Columbia Premier David Eby tonight. Right, where did it go? Right here.
Our pieces of legislation and how we might coincide with any driver's license impacts to people that are conducting such serious and deadly acts.
Do you have a follow-up question, Rob?
Sure. Unrelated topic for Premier Eby. Are you intending to go through with your ad campaign targeting the United States, given what we have seen President Trump's response to the Ontario ad campaign and the increase of tariffs? Have you talked to the Prime Minister about it? Are you worried it might provoke a reaction? If he asked you not to do it, would you not do it? Just walk us through that.
Yeah, first of all, let me say that I support unambiguously Premier Ford's advertisements in the United States. It is absolutely essential that we talk to Americans about the implications of tariffs, about the fact that trade policy in the United States right now is governed not by logic, not by economics, not by relationship, but by something else entirely, and by one individual in the White House. And the best example that I can give of that is the fact that Russia has better access to the U.S. market right now for softwood than Canada does. Russia, that launched a war of aggression against Ukraine, the whole world sanctioning them, delivering arms to Ukraine, support to Ukraine to fight the first war in Europe in a generation, and they are able to sell their softwood to the Americans at a lower tariff rate than Canadians are. This kind of nonsense and absurdity needs to be brought to the attention of the American people and decision makers. I have had conversations with senior officials in the federal government, specifically the ministers responsible for trade, Minister LeBlanc, Minister Jolie, and I have asked them to come to British Columbia for an emergency meeting on forestry. This is a foundational industry for our country. It is crucial in British Columbia. It is on the edge. It was already challenged before the additional 10% tariff, but now we're seeing mills close. We're seeing the loss of shifts accelerate. And I believe that by working together, we'll be able to not just provide support to workers, which is crucial in communities, but work together to ensure that our industry is there for the long term by pivoting to other markets. To that end, I'm happy to share that we're opening an office in the UK that is specifically focused on expanding access to forest products in the UK, in the EU, and North Africa, and select markets in the Middle East. This is the work that we're continuing to do to pivot to other markets as well. So we will continue to work to get the word out about the unfair and absurd treatment of the United States of Canada. But we can't control the man in the White House. All we can do is control our own destiny by ensuring that we're working with trade partners that value the resources and the work that Canadians bring to the global economy.
Okay. Doug Ford also posting this clip on X. From ABC News.
Doug Ford, he's the feisty Ontario premier who refuses to kiss the ring. So now President Trump is slapping an extra 10% tariff on imports from Canada.
That's dirty pool, and you can't do that. And let me just tell you, they shouldn't have done it. And they've apologized, and they said, we're going to take the ad down. Well, they did it, but they did it very late. They let it play for another 2 nights, and now they took that ad down. So I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it.
Well, in case you missed the Ontario anti-tariff ad, this is how it all started. Premier Ford taking President Trump's hero and basically using it against him.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse.
And as you could hear, the ad uses parts of President Reagan's 1987 speech on tariffs, making the point that they can lead to dangerous consequences. Trump called the ad fake, accusing Canada of trying to manipulate the Supreme Court ahead of a hearing on tariffs, and said negotiations are now off. By the way, Reagan's speech is not fake. It's 100% real. And if it feels like we've been here before, it's because we have. Trump called negotiations off this summer, but backtracked after 3 days. Well, the man at the center of all this drama joins me now, Premier Doug Ford. Good to see you, sir.
Oh, Kara, thanks so much for having me on. I start every interview in the same way. Canadians love Americans. We love the U.S. I love America. I was there for 20 years. I think the world of them. And this ad was all about making sure that we protect Canada and the U.S. manufacturing jobs. And Ronald Reagan was a free trader. He didn't believe in tariffs. Protectionism is the worst thing for any country, especially the U.S. and Canada.
So, after all the backlash, I have to ask you, you sure know how to push President Trump's buttons. Do you regret running this ad in any way, shape, or form?
I don't regret it at all. My intention was to make sure the American people were informed and have a conversation, and it really started a conversation. We've seen over a billion, with a B, a billion impressions, meaning a billion views from around the world. I was getting calls from over in the UK, Scotland, Italy, Portugal, India, all over the place. Again, this is about making sure that American people understand a tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans.
So let me ask you, President Trump is calling the ad dirty pool, even warning that he can play dirtier. Are you worried?
Well, I'm not going to get into name calling back and forth. This is dirty. It wasn't dirty. It was factual. And I can tell you, Ontario, just Ontario, not all of Canada, even though Canada's the number one customer to the U.S., we're the number one customer to 15 states. Ontario is number 2 to 12 others. 9 million Americans wake up every morning to produce a product or a widget or a service for Ontario. I believe in the AMCAN Fortress. Let's work together, the American-Canadian Fortress. Let's be the strongest countries in the world, the safest countries in the world. And you don't do that by attacking your closest friend and ally. And President Trump has been attacking Canada from the day he's been elected. And that's unfortunate because we love Americans, and I know Americans love Canadians as well.
It's always been a very solid relationship for decades and decades, that's for sure. Your Prime Minister, Mark Carney, put out a statement over the weekend, Doug, as this ad played out during the highly watched World Series, we should point out, saying it is the sole responsibility of the government of Canada to have these tariff negotiations with the United States. So I'm curious, after that statement that he put out, what's Carney telling you today? Does he want you to back off?
You know something? I agree with the Prime Minister. That's his sole responsibility. My sole responsibility as the largest province of 16 million people is to protect our steel sector that's under attack, our manufacturing sector, which is under attack, our auto sector that's under attack. And when we get hurt, Americans get hurt. We're so integrated, especially on the auto sector. It's been around since the 1960s, the auto pack. And you can see, talk to any CEO of any of the large American auto manufacturers, they're losing billions and billions. What we've seen right now in the U.S., that manufacturing jobs, including auto jobs, is declining and inflation is going up. President Trump ran on creating more jobs, which is not happening, lowering inflation, which is not happening. The way to fix this is make a deal with your number one customer in the world. We buy 400% more vehicles off the U.S. than any other jurisdiction in the world. We're your greatest customer. And yes, you're our greatest customer, and we appreciate it. And we respect America. We respect everyone down there. But you don't attack your closest ally and friend.
And clearly your leadership style in many ways is different from that of Mark Carney, as we just saw him recently, sitting in the Oval, and he was very chummy with the president. Some would call you the enforcer. Is there ever a time where Mark Carney gets what you're doing but just says, come on, you're kind of getting in my way. I need some help here, Doug?
Well, I'm there to support them. And even though we're from two political stripes, I'm as close as ally out there. And we work well together. But again, my job is to protect the auto sector, life science sector, manufacturing. And we have a lot to offer the U.S. We ship down more oil than anyone else. We ship down the uranium to keep your nuclear facilities going, your potash to keep your agricultural sector going, the mining, high-grade nickel comes from Ontario, and we're there to support our great friends. I don't want to fight. I want to get to the table and start making a deal. I want the Prime Minister to get to the table and start making a deal on all those sectors to make both countries a lot stronger. President Reagan was the greatest president ever. He has said it over and over and over again. Protectionism does not work. President Reagan is bang on. We've created more jobs once we created the Canada-U.S. free trade deal back with Prime Minister Brian Mulroney than ever in the history of the U.S. All these tariffs are doing are hurting Americans, and I want to help them.
And as I pointed out last week when the ad was playing, President Trump loves Ronald Reagan. It's the largest portrait that hangs in the Oval Office, right to the left of his desk. It's his hero, and he'll tell you that. So let me ask you, Doug, what does it say about the way Trump governs that a TV commercial could lead to such serious action on your economy?
Well, I found it ironic because when we first played it, President Trump came out and basically almost congratulated us and said, if I was Canada, I'd run those ads too. And I guess he woke up the next morning, someone got into his ear and said, those are terrible ads. I don't want to, I have no intention to poke President Trump in the eye. I just want to get a deal that's going to be successful to all the states that we deal with. And again, we're the number one customer to the U.S. from anywhere in the world. And Ontario is the third largest customer in the world next to China and Mexico. The only difference is we buy a lot more off America than China and Mexico. That's the difference. They start undercutting and shipping products in. We don't. We play fair, and we have a great relationship with our American friends.
Well, I know a lot of American businesses here, especially small businesses, depend on having this relationship and depend on getting a lot of goods and services out of your country. So the Supreme Court will hear arguments on Trump's tariffs later this month. As you know, the administration is arguing that he can unilaterally impose these tariffs because the trade deficit is a national emergency. Does this whole situation undercut his argument, Doug?
Well, it might apply to China, it might apply to Mexico, it doesn't apply to Canada. If we took out the oil that the Americans desperately need, there's a $60 billion surplus for the U.S., which I have no problem with. We just need to work together. We're stronger together. United we stand, divided we fall. We've been united for 200 years through so many turmoil, so many wars. We stood shoulder to shoulder with our greatest friend and ally. I love the U.S. I love Americans. And God bless America and God bless Canada. We need to get through this. Put egos to the side.
I also know you love your Blue Jays, and you have this friendly, yes, you have a friendly World Series bet going with California Governor Gavin Newsom. We're going to have some fun here. Safe to say that we won't see a similar bet between you and President Trump?
Well, I don't think so on that, at least. But Governor Newsom, we thought we'd have some fun. And I just have to say, go Jays and bring it home.
Okay, that's game 3. Getting underway, even as we speak. Let me just check the score. It is 0-0. I think the game started, the broadcast started at 8 p.m. I'm not watching because I'm on here with you, but I've got an eye on a scoreboard over there. Again tonight, game 3, season, the series evened up at 1 game apiece, as you all know, and a lot riding on that series, the World Series. It isn't just about baseball, it's about national pride. I'll be right back. We have other news to dip into on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
In other news, it used to drive me crazy when I would hear newscasters say it. In other news, there's always other news. But these days, I think it's appropriate because there's all the Trump news, which is most of the news, and then there's other news, which is rare. This is something rare and weird. I don't know if you've seen this or not. There was this like glowing green streak that appeared in the sky over Moscow overnight. Might have been a meteor, might have been a falling satellite. Who knows what the heck it is? Skynet? falling? Don't know. I have video. Who wants to see it? I do. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this video. I'm so old. Do you even know what I just referred to? No, probably not. Trident gum. There's the streak. Check that out. Isn't that weird? Look at that. A green streak across the sky of Moscow. UFO, aliens, unidentified object. Is it flying or crashing? Certainly something that is freaking people out tonight. But you can see it's burning up in the atmosphere. Very likely something entering from outer space and the friction in the atmosphere, burning it to smithereens. In other news, back to Venezuela, here's Rand Paul on Fox News Sunday. This is a day after the Sunday talk show circuit, but I want to hear what he has to say, and I've not vetted this script, or rather this clip, in advance. But this is, I believe, related to all of the strikes and the military buildup off the coast of Venezuela.
Somewhere where I think the two of you agree, and that's on some of the last bit of what Lucas was reporting on there about those strikes out in the sea. The president says there's going to be more information and briefing coming to Capitol Hill. Here's what he said Thursday.
The land is going to be next, and we may go to the Senate, we may go to the Congress and tell them about it, but I can't imagine they'd have any problem with it. I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
All right, so I'll start with you, Senator Paul. What do you need to hear in a briefing? What questions do you have?
It's not so much about a briefing, but we haven't had a briefing. To be clear, we've gotten no information. I've been invited to no briefing. But a briefing is not enough to overcome the Constitution. The Constitution says that when you go to war, Congress has to vote on it. And during a war, then, there's a lower rules for engagement. People do sometimes get killed without due process. But the drug war or the crime war has typically been something we do through law enforcement. And so far, they have alleged that these people are drug dealers. No one said their name. No one said what evidence. No one said whether they're armed. And we've had no evidence presented. So at this point, I would call them extrajudicial killings. And this is akin to what China does, to Iran does with drug dealers. They summarily execute people without presenting evidence to the public. So it's wrong.
Certainly appears that way, doesn't it? Much is changing geopolitically. The United States becoming less relevant on the world stage. Europe is beginning to fill that power vacuum. Britain announcing a fighter jet deal with Turkey, selling 20 Typhoon jets to Turkey, $8 billion deal, biggest fighter export in nearly 20 years for Britain, sending a direct message to Vladimir Putin.
A really good day for the United Kingdom, a really good day for jobs. So today we're signing a really big deal with Turkey for the provision of Typhoons, 20 Typhoons, £8 billion worth of work for the United Kingdom, but more importantly, bringing us together strategically with Typhoons. You can see these Typhoons here parked up in Turkey. They've come across to mark the occasion. So a really good day for the United Kingdom, a really good day for jobs.
In Canada, of course, we're still reviewing the F-35 contract 16. We are committed to buying the rest. Not so sure. Looking at the Gripen. Don't know where it's going to go. Big money on the line. Meanwhile, in other news, over in Ukraine, Russia continuing to escalate strikes against power infrastructure. We talked about that last night with Yarina from Ukraine, who is bracing for the winter people in her community near the front line, of course, becoming accustomed to power disruptions, sometimes lasting a day or even longer. Here's video of the Kremlin going after wind turbines.
Бачили влучання. На жаль, все. Вітаків більше немає.
Drone strike. I believe that's a drone strike. Sound delay.
Ворожий дрон.
Yep. It ain't over. No peace in Ukraine, not yet. Thank you, everybody, too, for being so kind to Irina in the comments last night. Nice lady. And she was expressing her appreciation back as well in my private conversation with her before and after the broadcast. Ukraine also ramping up attacks against Russia, going after energy infrastructure, oil refineries, and overnight striking a Russian army fuel depot in the Luhansk Oblast using multiple Ukrainian FP2 drones. And it went up in a blaze. This is Ukrainian footage from the drone. Take the audio down. And these strikes are having an impact on the Russian side, both sides hurting each other. Now, last night I also showed you reports from Russian sources, which were claiming as many as 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers were being encircled. I can only tell you that I don't know how truthful it is or how honest that was. I can tell you that overnight, Vladimir Zelensky came out and said those reports are fake, that the reports have been generated because they're trying to feed information to Trump and the Trump administration, but it is propaganda. What is true? Don't know. Haven't seen video confirmation of any kind to support the Russian claims that they have 10,000 Ukrainian troops encircled. I do know that Russia has been pushing pretty hard in some of those regions up around Donetsk. Here I've got a clip here now of
here in
Trump meeting with the Japanese emperor. Something here about shouting. I don't know what this is. I'm going to run the clip. This is a little weird. This is from Patriot Oasis. Not familiar with the Twitter channel. It says the Japanese emperor's team informed the U.S. fake news outlets that if they shout questions at President Trump in front of the emperor or at the emperor, it will be considered assault. The Japanese told the fake news FAFO. What? It's a Fox News clip. Let's run it. I don't know what this is.
Here in Japan, you see this video of the president and the emperor. The press pool capturing the close-up images of this handshake were warned by the hosts that if they shout questions of the emperor, it is considered here assault. Here in Japan, you see this video of the president.
I did not know that. A cultural thing, isn't that? That's different. Isn't that special? Let's go do a Truth Social scroll with the Trumpster. A few telling things on his feed tonight. Here we go. This is not other news. This is back to Donald Trump news. Truth Social scroll. After winning 3 elections by a lot, he says, right off the top, I am now getting the best polling numbers I have ever received. People see how strong the economy is, the trillions of dollars of investment pouring into our country, the record-setting strong border, after years of millions of criminals pouring through it, totally unvetted and unchecked. Ending 8 wars in 8 months, no men playing in women's sports, no transgender for everyone, rapidly falling energy prices, and much more. Despite all of this, the radical left losers are taking fake ads, not showing real polls, but rather saying that I'm polling at low levels. These are the people that I've been beating for years. And I'm continuing to do so, but by even bigger margins. These ads should not be allowed to run because they are fake. Are they? Don't know. One thing, let me show you this. I think I've still got it. Speaking of polls, looks like Canada's more popular in the US than Trump. Do I have that? Here it is. Look at this clip. I haven't actually watched it. I'm just aware of it. But I think I know where it's going. Here. Trump says he's polling high. Over here, they say Canada's polling higher and Trump's polling low. Whose word will you take?
So what are you talking about? Net popularity in the United States. Well, Canada is far more popular than Donald Trump is here in the United States. Look at this. The net popularity rating of Canada is plus 49 percentage points. Look at the net popularity rating of Donald Trump here in the United States. It's minus 10. We're talking about Canada coming out nearly 60 points ahead on the net popularity rating versus Donald Trump here in the United States. When you pick on Canada as a United States president, you are picking on a country that the American people adore. They adore Canada. Canada has always been a friend to the United States, at least during our lifetimes. And when you're going after Canada, you are going against someone who is far more popular than you are with Donald Trump. Pretty much every single time among most Americans, Americans will choose Canada over Donald Trump, yet Trump has decided to pick yet another fight with somebody or some entity or some country that is more popular than he is.
Any president would love to see that number under their name.
The last president that had this type of number was George W. Bush back in the early 2000s. No president has come anywhere close to how popular Canada is right now, and Donald Trump certainly is a long, long, long away. He cannot see Canada from his house when it comes to his net popularity.
All right,
rating.
let's reverse this. How do Canadians feel about the United States?
They think that Donald Trump's a big hoser. That's what they think. They hate Donald Trump. They hate everything that he's doing. Canadians who say America is an enemy or potential threat. Look, in 2023, it was 7%. Look how high it's gone now. We're talking about 48%. We're talking about a nearly 48-point jump. And the Trump administration, my dear friends, has a net popularity rating in Canada of minus, get this, 58 points. So Americans love Canada, but Canadians no longer love the United States of America. Sarah?
Oh, Canada.
Oh, you went over there. Look at that.
Oh, Canada. I ran away from you because I don't want the Canadians mad with me. Thank you so much, Harry Henton.
Bye.
My question, how much did Mark Carney pay CNN to put that poll up? That's funny, man. Here's Jill Canadian. I don't know who this person is. This is popping up in my feed. Does anybody know who Jill Canadian is? Never heard of Jill Canadian. Monarchist. Interesting. Oh, all these things coming back from the 1800s. British Empire loyalists. Oh, we revisit the past as it rhymes. History. Jill Canadian. Flying the Canadian flag. Trump wants what Canada has, and he's not getting his hands on it. That's why he's lashing out at us. Let's just sit and watch. Saying nothing to the USA is strength. Yeah, Carney did say today that emotions don't really get you too far. On that point, he is right. Sometimes I have to really restrain myself, and he's absolutely right. Yeah, can't fly off the handle, although sometimes I have been known to rant just a little bit. from time to time. I know. I'm going to get a phone call from somebody tonight, I bet. Rick, we need another rant. I hate it when I do that. I absolutely hate doing the rants. What else do we have? Don't want to miss anything. We're going to come back to the Truth Social scroll in just a moment. I think we're just about there. Let's go here. I'll go back to Truth Social. Bring it back up. There we are. What else is Trump posting tonight? QAnon 76. Replying to @real Donald Trump with Barack Obama. This bumbling buffoon should stop speaking on behalf of America because he is no longer president. Signed, every American who shares this post. Let's go to Trump's actual page because we're not there. All right, back on Trump's page. Still got it up on the tab? We do. Scroll down here now. Oh, there he is. These are images of him arriving in Malaysia. Did you see him doing the dance thing? The dance thing? With the dancers in Malaysia? I thought it was weird. You know, it's a cultural thing, right? When you arrive in a place like that, and these Malaysian dancers were there, and there was cultural significance to it. They were trying to honor him, greet him. It was a sign of respect for these dancers to be there. And then Trump, doing what Trump does, starts to dance the way he does at his MAGA rallies. Let's see if I can find the clip. That should come up here. Here we go. This is just, oh, some people like the dancing. It makes me cringe just a little bit. Here. If you haven't seen it, viewer discretion advised. I don't mean to be too critical. I mean, if you want to dance, life is short. Weird dance. I don't think it was so bad that it was like a diplomatic faux pas. That's Trump doing the disco duck. Over in Colombia, Venezuela, they're sort of supporting each other in the face of this military buildup around Venezuela and the attacks on the alleged narco-terrorist boats. And in Colombia, President Petro says the U.S. could still look for a way to extract me with the Mossad or the CIA. He goes on and says, I don't have $1 in the U.S. I don't have any bank account to freeze. I don't feel like doing business in the U.S. They could look for a way to extract me with the Mossad, with the CIA, with the DEA to put me in a prison where my voice is not heard somewhere far from the U.S. The U.S. government has decided to choose the mafia as its ally in Colombia. Interesting choice of words. And then in this fearless post, and yeah, Trump has a lot of people around the world, even the people closest to him, very afraid. Even within the GOP right now, with the way things sit, he's amassed such power, nobody wants to speak up against Donald Trump. Well, a few people will. Rand Paul has been, selectively, but generally speaking, he's ruling through fear. In Colombia, they're standing up.
No tengo $1 en los Estados Unidos. No hay ninguna cuenta que congelarme.
And those of you who don't understand Spanish, we have Spanish subtitles on the bottom.
En los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica aún podrían buscar cómo se extrae al presidente de Colombia con la Mossad, con la CIA, con la DEA, para meterlo por allá en una cárcel donde no se escuche su voz en la.
It's my understanding Colombia and Venezuela have a defense agreement. So if I'm not sure exactly how it works, I have to look into it more. But I think if Venezuela is attacked, Colombia will respond. So if Trump sends in boots on the ground in any way, there's a real risk that you could draw Colombia into the conflict. And the United States was instrumental in elevating Colombia out of elevating Colombia to a higher economic status by removing a lot of the drug trade from that country. That's why I think one of the biggest exports from Colombia now is cut flowers that make it to the United States. That's one of their main trade exports. But I don't know if Trump fully appreciates the work that was done down there to stabilize that region, and the work that the stabilization, that the effect of that has been actually to counteract a lot of the activity of the drug cartels, especially in Colombia. I stand to be corrected if I'm getting any of that wrong, but just off the top of my head, those are the things that I sort of remember. And everything going on down there with Venezuela risks destabilizing, I think, the entire region. Maybe that's why you have so much firepower built up, but even so, they have enough firepower down there to invade the entire region. Well, they wouldn't do that, would they? Back to the Truth Social scroll. The thing I noticed, a couple of things I noticed about two things in the Truth Social scroll tonight as I bring this up. Okay, so here he is in Malaysia. Let me scroll down. Going to come back to this one. First, there's this picture that he posts, looking really, oh man, aggressive. We'll put it that way. Stern, tough guy image. Don't mess with me. FAFO. Retribution. It's a very dark picture, black and white. To me, that says, don't mess with me. I'm on a mission. There's anger there. Really, there's anger in this image from what I see. Yet over here, he's got peace. This doesn't feel like peace to me. This feels like fear. Fear. I see what's going on in Venezuela. I see what's going on with Canada. I see what's going on in other places too. And he uses the economic and military might of the United States to just get things he wants. He says he's out there brokering peace deals. Maybe so. It seems to me he's afraid to attack anybody that's even close to being equal in strength. He's only picking on weaker opponents or people he perceives as being weaker. A lot of his power comes through fear. I pointed out even earlier that Marco Rubio, I can see fear in his eyes. Wants the job. He sees in the long run, he might even get another shot at the presidency himself down the road. He's young enough. He was running for it before. He'll run for it again. After Donald Trump leaves office, he's hedging his bets, rolling the dice. He's taken his position within the Trump administration, but I look at that guy and I see fear. Don't say even one thing wrong or you're out the door, pal. Maybe worse. You see what he's done to his political opponents? Not to say that what was done to him was right. It wasn't. Maybe. I don't know. Now I'm beginning to wonder. You see what's going on with the whole Epstein thing. You just, that's not going away. That will come back to haunt him again. He's angry. He wants to get even. All the lawfare used against him. There's real bitterness there. And the picture tonight just speaks volumes to me. But that is not the picture that spoke most loudly to me. The picture that spoke in the loudest way to me was an image just above this that seems to be much quieter. This one. He says, look how beautiful the Oval Office is now. Many of those great paintings of past presidents were in the vaults for over 100 years. Now they are for everyone to enjoy. Okay. But look at this image. There he is sitting in the Oval Office, quietly, surrounded by all the dead presidents. The ones that he chose to put on the walls. The dead presidents in the Oval Office, and there Trump sits quietly, dimly lit, alone. The strong man. Alone. Funny thing is, you know, when you use fear to keep people in check, when your power, your influence is derived through fear, it's really hard to know who your friends are and who your enemies are. There was a president who talked about fear, John F. Kennedy. I remember his words too. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Yeah. We're going to be okay. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow night. 7 p.m. Eastern. Oh, looks like Los Angeles is up 1. Cross your fingers. Keep the faith. See you tomorrow night. On the flip side. Where are you, Cosmo? There's my buddy.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the legs. Now the night's If you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmos Run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling low, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a bird, a heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a bird. Cosmos on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.